Women have been hunting for a long time, since before time. And yet the storytelling piece around women and other diverse audiences that are part of that culture has lagged. And so I think what we're doing now is really just trying to amplify these role models so that other women can see badass role models in the field doing these wonderful activities, learning how to balance it with their profession. Yep. If you are a spouse or if you are a mother, that these are all things that we can do for ourselves too, and enjoy the camaraderie and the heritage of those activities.
Welcome to the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast, inspiring real women with a passion for fishing and the outdoors to go get their adventure on. Now, here's your fearless host, Angie Scott.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast. I'm super pumped about this week's episode. I know I tend to focus a lot of the show around fishing, so it's always fun to change it up a bit. This is probably one of my most favorite episodes I've done so far on hunting. This week, we're talking all about pheasant hunting, and the best place in the world to experience it is in the great state of South Dakota. I'm about to introduce you to two amazing ladies, Emily Keel and Tanaya Bethke. Emily is the Director of Marketing and Outreach at South Dakota Game, Fish, and Parks, and Tanaya is the Director of Operations for the Council to Advance Hunting and the Shooting Sports. Both of these ladies have a passion for the outdoors and hunting. We're going to talk about what makes pheasant hunting in South Dakota so great and what they're doing to make it more accessible for everyone, including women and kids, and much more. Why is this one of my favorite episodes? I feel like pheasant hunting is an excellent opportunity to introduce folks new to hunting to the sport. It's important for conservation, and it can be action-packed and especially fun when bird dogs are involved. There are tons of opportunities for guided hunts and lodges, and tons of public land access for those wanting a self-guided hunt. You'll learn all about it during our conversation. This was recorded via StreamYard, so the video version is being released as well as the regular audio version. However you watch or listen, I hope you enjoy and share this episode with your friends. Let's get the word out and encourage others to go get your hunt on. Enjoy. Emily Keel and Tanaya Bethke, welcome to the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast. I'm excited to have you both on today. And before we get into it, I wanted to start off with a quote that I saw on the website, huntthegreatest.com, which is a great resource that people can go to regarding pheasant hunting in the state of South Dakota, which is our topic today. But on the homepage, it said, "Open to everyone. It's the cackle of a rooster, the rush of the flush, the tailgate talks at the end of the field, and the stories at the end of the day. A hunt in the world's greatest pheasant country is a thrill like no other." So that kind of just sets the scene, I think, a little bit. But before we get into talking about that, if each of you could kind of give a little bit of background on yourselves, what you do currently, and kind of how you got there.
I can. Yeah. So, hi, everyone. My name is Emily Keel. I'm the Marketing and Outreach Director for the state of South Dakota Game, Fish, and Parks here in Pierre, South Dakota. I am born and raised South Dakotan. I grew up in Watertown, which is in the northeast corner of the state, our Glacial Lakes region. My family is an outdoor family. I grew up hunting, fishing, camping with my dad. We camped as a family. We spent a lot of time at Seachy Hollow and Picker Lake and Ponce, and a lot of fishing tournaments in that northeast corner. And so that's really where I got the love and the passion of pheasant hunting, deer hunting, turkey hunting, all those species in particular, duck hunting as well. Then do a lot of waterfowl hunting. My dad's a big archery hunter, and so that was kind of passed down to me. I have one younger sister. Didn't really want anything to do with, that outdoor lifestyle. I mean, she enjoyed the camping and takes her family camping today, which I think is great. And then my family is very much today involved in the outdoor recreation of hunting everything, fishing the Missouri River, hiking in the Black Hills, hiking around central South Dakota, and visiting the parks much we can too. And if you can see in my office space here in the background, a lot of blaze orange there. So yes, keeping up the tradition of pheasant hunting in our family, and been in state government since 2005. Landed here at the Game Fishing Parks in 2014, and have loved every minute of combining my life passion and my lifestyle with my career, and meeting great people along the way, like yourself, Angie, and Tanaya here. So.
Awesome.
Hi, Angie. Thank you so much for having us on today. So my name is Tanaya Bethke. I'm the Director of Operations for the Council to Advance Hunting and Shooting Sports. So I kind of got to this career path by a long and winding route. I got a degree in conservation biology from the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point, and between field biology and environmental education kind of came up through my career path throughout my 20s. And my husband and I were looking for a way to move a little closer to home. We'd been living in Texas, and I had been really craving a way to return to my conservation roots after working in education for a while. And a job with South Dakota Game Fishing Parks came open. And so they hired me on in 2017 to oversee all of the wildlife division education programs for the state. So that includes hunter education and aquatic education and outdoor campuses and our Learn to Hunt programs. And that's where I met Emily, and we really got to engage in a lot of R3 work, which is recruitment, retention, and reactivation of hunters and anglers, and recreational shooters as well. And that's just a really important and passionate component of how I view conservation and I view the work of education. And through my work within the region and in the state and at the national level, I took a new position with the Council to Advance Hunting and Shooting Sports here in May, and have been able to continue our partnership with South Dakota, which is really exciting, and also help to increase awareness about the contribution that hunters and shooting sports participants and anglers play in conservation funding, and also to help amplify the diverse stories of people who participate in outdoor recreation activities. But I grew up on a farm, I grew up camping, and I didn't start hunting until I was an adult, and I moved to this community, and now it's part of my family. My husband does not hunt, but he'll eat and make anything I bring home. There you go.
Well, great. Well, I love that you're both very much passionate about the outdoors, and you always say you want to do something for a living that you're passionate about. So I love when those two tie in together. So I want to talk about, of course, pheasant hunting in South Dakota. It's going on right now. What makes South Dakota the pheasant capital of the world?
Well, I think you hit on it when you had that quote right in the opening, because I was going to make sure that we set the scene for that, and you did so wonderfully. Even having to connect with you, Angie, so thank you. But just to add to that, I really want to stress that our outdoor resources, they're open to everyone, and that's super special. We are really focused right now on building that tradition and those outdoor families and making sure that is handed down to the next generation. Making sure that habitat and access are front and center. We roll out the orange carpet in South Dakota, and that's what sets us apart. We have more than 1 million roosters have been harvested in the last 17 years out of 20. And so we have that bragging point for years to come, right? Steve Halverson, he is also a preserve owner and landowner just southeast of here. And he has a quote too that I wanted to share. He says, "The people here are really special. That's what makes the hunt. I have repeat hunters who say they've never met a rude person in South Dakota. Then, of course, it's the habitat, people and the birds. That's what makes our state special." And I couldn't agree with him more. So.
Yeah, a million. I mean, that's a lot of birds. That's awesome. So I imagine that the outlook for this season is just as good as it has been in the years past.
Yeah, it's been a little, sporadic, but because of a mild winter last year, our enhanced efforts on habitat management and then the intense predator control through the Nest Predator Bounty Program, if our weather patterns continue to hold out, we'll continue to see fantastic bird numbers here throughout the 2021 season. We had reports throughout opening weekend, which was just a couple weekends ago, from the field. And, as long as, people were hunting smart, where they weren't like in the cattails in mid-afternoon when it was 72 degrees, where it was hot. And so as long as they were, making sure that they were looking for those mature birds and finding decent cover, whether it was through food plots and having the dogs. I mean, we had dogs in the field with us, and we had just enough moisture where they could get that sense of the scent of the bird. When it's really dry here, it's really hard and tough on the dogs, but we have had some really good fall moisture, which is helpful. Crops were still in opening weekend quite a bit, sunflowers and corn, but we're looking pretty, in terms of being in good shape for even going out this weekend. Crops are really, I don't know what the percentage is. I don't have that off the top of my head, but much better here in the last couple of weeks. So those farmers have really been in the field working hard to get those harvested before the school starts flying. But one good thing too, we are that premier outdoor destination in South Dakota in the fall. We're one of the few places in the world where hunters can come and bag that upland bird trifecta, from sharp-tailed grouse to the greater prairie chicken, and then of course our ringneck pheasant. So that's pretty exciting. And then you can do some fall fishing on Missouri River, which really complements that type of trip for those destination hunters. So we write about that all the time too. And then our camping, of course. Yeah. So
if I could add on to that, we also have just, top-notch public land access in South Dakota. That's something that I haven't seen in many of the other places that I've lived. And especially from here from Texas, where there's a lot of private land available, non-public land. It's really an outstanding opportunity here.
From billion-dollar ad budgets and arena naming rights to tens of thousands of retail locations, big wireless providers spend big to appear like they're your only option. How do they afford it all? That big bill you get at the end of every month. Mint Mobile had a different idea. Instead of brick and mortar overhead, Mint Mobile is online only. What does that mean for you? A whole lot of savings, because wireless plans from Mint Mobile start at just $15 a month. That's unlimited talk, text, and data for just $15 a month. You'll save enough that you can get a brand new rod and reel for the upcoming season. For anyone who just hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. All plans come with unlimited talk, text, and high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan, and you can even keep your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. By going online only and eliminating traditional costs of retail, Mint Mobile passes significant savings on to you. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That's mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
Thank you. Yes. And we have public hunting atlas, both in print and online, and some hunter tools that they can use to plan their trips that help identify those access points. Over 1 million acres of public hunting atlas in our state, or public acres in our state. And we work a lot with the private landowners too, who welcome those conversations and will invite those hunters in if and when it's appropriate for them.
I imagine, too, there's probably a lot of guides and lodges that people from out of town can book trips with and learn the, more local areas if they're not familiar.
Yeah, so we have a couple hundred preserve operators across the state, primarily located in that pheasant belt of central South Dakota, the Missouri River corridor. And those are all located on our website. You mentioned huntthegreatest.com earlier, Angie, and really right there is where we have some of those planning tools, from our hunt planner to the regional breakdowns of where people can go and where those preserve operators are, where those lodges are, season information, FAQs, frequently asked questions, where they can figure out if they want to have a do-it-yourself adventure or book one of those trips at one of our local lodges.
Great. Well, real quick, you mentioned nest predators in the bounty program. Talk a little bit about that, and what are nest predators?
Sure. So this is all part of the Second Century Initiative launched by Governor Nome in 2019. And so we've had 3 years of the nest predator brownie program. And a nest predator is a raccoon, a skunk, badger, a possum, or a red fox. And so right now the season is closed, just to make that clear, but it's open April 1 through July 1. And that was the season here this past year. But those program goals include enhancing duck and pheasant nest success, as well as increasing trapping participation, awareness, and education, and ensuring that our hunting and trapping heritage remains strong for the next 100 years. And I've mentioned that probably a couple of times now. That's super important and a really key piece of this program. But some more details can be found on our website in terms of price per tail and some of the results that we've received from each of those years since it has launched. But I would invite people to participate. Trapping is obviously a fundamental piece to conservation and really how things came to be in this country. And so just check it out on our website for more details.
All right. Well, this is the Woman Angler and Adventure podcast, so I definitely want to touch on women getting into the sport of pheasant hunting, and what are some of the things that you're doing to help keep or help make pheasant hunting more accessible for women?
So I think for me, there's great partnerships out there that need to happen. Between state agencies and NGO and industry, all of us are moving in the same direction with recruitment, retention, and reactivation. And so there's some really tremendous partnerships out there that we can enhance to make sure that we're all driving towards inclusion of all diverse populations, including women, in outdoor recreation. There's some really tremendous efforts that are happening with Pheasants Forever and the Women on the Wing program that we can help support, we can help bolster and partner on. Within the state, you guys have an excellent Becoming an Outdoor Woman program, and that leads to awesome beyond bow activities like hunts. And South Dakota Game Fish and Parks and Council have partnered on providing learn to hunt opportunities. We had one in Kennebec just recently that was an adult pheasant hunt, teaching folks how to harvest their own birds, process their birds, and then go ahead and cook together as a group. And so there's a lot of support from hunter education all the way up through harvest and processing and cooking that both the state and partners engage in. What else would you have?
Yeah, well, I mean, our state has a chief spokesperson on behalf of, pheasant hunting and all outdoor recreation, which is Governor Nome. And she's our first female governor, and she really supports those outdoor initiatives that we have in place, and very similar with the partnerships that tonight I just mentioned too. So that's really been great to have her as a chief spokesperson and ambassador of everything that we stand for within the Game Fish and Parks. But tying this back to pheasant hunting, we've at the Game Fish and Parks have teamed up with the Department of Tourism over the last couple of years to launch a very targeted pheasant hunting marketing campaign. And this year we are specifically targeting female hunters. And there's a ton of research that goes into why we would target them, when and where and how, with the right message at the right time, the right platform. But for me, speaking from experience, I'm the planner of our family. And if I'm involved, everybody's excited. And this could be hunting. It could be, going to buy a car, or it could be going to Walmart to go grocery shopping. I mean, when I'm involved, there's a little bit more excitement when it comes to making sure we're doing the activities that are meaningful and serve as a priority for us. And for us, and why we're talking today, it's the outdoors. And so I think that is obvious. Is obvious in several other outdoor family households where if mom's involved or if the lead female is involved, it's going to happen.
I think to that point too, such a huge part of what we are doing, both of our organizations, and I see the community doing with folks like Women Angler and Adventurer, is the storytelling piece. Women have been hunting for a long time, since before time. And yet the storytelling piece around women and other diverse audiences that are part of that culture has lagged. And so I think what we're doing now is really just trying to amplify these role models so that other women can see badass role models in the field doing these wonderful activities, learning how to balance it with your profession. Yep. If you are a spouse or if you are a mother, that these are all things that we can do for ourselves too, and enjoy the camaraderie and the heritage of those activities.
Absolutely. And I think of how the industry has transformed too. I've talked before about when I was growing up, there wasn't a market for female clothing or outdoor attire when it came to hunting or upland bird hunting or archery hunting, whatever it would have been. Even though they were hunting for generations before us, I was wearing my dad's hand-me-downs, right? And they didn't fit me properly. But now today, looking how that has just transformed from all of these different brands and companies, and the gear has just exploded for female hunters and female outdoor enthusiasts. And that's really special because the clothing fits us. The boots keep our feet warm. The gloves fit. There's extra smalls and there's extra larges, and it's great.
Or even firearms that cater specifically to a female build as opposed to having to use a compact or youth model. Those are really special, specifically tailored things that remove the barriers to participation.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's been a long journey to get there. We're finally getting
we're still going.
Yeah, we still got a ways to go for sure. And and that's what this show is all about too, is sharing those stories to help inspire other women to be like, oh, she can do it, I can do it. I want to check this out. For more than 100 years, pheasant hunting has been a storied South Dakota tradition. And for the next century, South Dakota is focused on making pheasant hunting even greater, welcoming more hunters to the field, showing the hunting community is for everyone. That's a legacy to stand the test of time. Go to huntthegreatestsd.com to hear stories from women who hunt and learn what makes South Dakota the world's pheasant capital. That's huntthegreatestsd.com. South Dakota. Sportswomen, welcome. You mentioned becoming an outdoors woman. What other resources out there? Like if there's a woman watching this right now, she's never pheasant hunted before, but it sounds like this might be something exciting. Like how would you recommend getting started, getting into the hobby? Like in fishing, it can be overwhelming. There's so many different baits out there and equipment and all of that. Like, what would your recommendation be?
So I went through this process relatively recently. Within the last 5 years of my life, I was at exactly that point. And I think my very first step was really getting comfortable shooting firearms. I grew up with firearms, but I wanted to make sure that if I was going to bring one into my household, that I was going to be safe with it. And so I practiced at the range. I made friends who knew that resource. And so here in South Dakota, that resource is everywhere. But in your community, it might mean going to a shooting range, talking to somebody at a firearm resale location to talk about the fit of a firearm, where you can safely go shooting, to find an instructor in your community so that you can feel safe and confident. Because if you go out in the field and you don't have safety skills and you don't have confidence, not only are you potentially risking yourself and others, but you're also going to come away from that really discouraged. So that's where I would start. Once you start shooting, it's so enjoyable. Recreational shooting in and of itself is a fantastic way to contribute to conservation. But once you're there and once you feel comfortable and safe in that space, I think the next part is finding people, again, you feel safe and comfortable with going out in the field. So sometimes that might mean hooking up with your local Pheasants Forever chapter. It might mean finding your local conservation officers that work together with your department so that they can clue you into educational opportunities or supported hunt opportunities. They might be able to show you the hunting atlas and see where you can hunt on public land so that you're legally following the regulations within your community. And oftentimes, once you start doing those activities, other folks come out of the woodwork. There are also many states that have mentorship programs. South Dakota Game Fish and Parks does a really great job with their outdoor campuses and with their law enforcement staff at providing those mentorship opportunities. And a lot of states have those same things. So it might just be calling up your local Game Fish and Parks office and asking for the resources available in your community. What would you add to that?
Nothing. You hit it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Great.
My shotgun's name is Vera. We spend a lot of time together.
That's awesome. So we talked about R3, recruitment, retention, and activation. So on the flip side of that, do you run into any resistance of people like, this is wrong, you shouldn't be hunting? Like, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, a million times. Yes, I think the biggest piece of resistance we get is folks that feel like land is already overrun, or there's already a high amount of competition with other hunters in the field. And one thing I'd like to point out is R3 is species specific and targeted at unlimited hunting opportunities typically. And so over-the-counter tags that aren't as part of a draw system are typically where R3 professionals are focusing their effort. And so it's an underutilized resource. South Dakota already sells all of their deer licenses for the most part. And so that's not going to be where we can make the biggest effort, the biggest impact. Where we're going to make massive impact in South Dakota or in other states typically is going to be on over-the-counter licenses like small game or fishing, those kinds of things. And so I think one of the concerns that, existing hunters come out of the woodwork with is, they're taking something away from me. And I understand that concern, that feeling that you're losing something or feeling disenfranchised, but that's not what this is about. This is making sure that the tent is big enough for everyone, because conservation is about keeping all of those wild resources in the public trust, and all of us are stewards of that. So the more people that we can include in that passion, the more power we will have as a conservation community.
And I always say, too, there's different ways to think about when and how you go hunting. And if access is a big thing, whether it's for those traditionalists or it's the new hunters and anglers into the field, if you have the flexibility to go hunting on a Monday afternoon or a Tuesday morning or something like that, as opposed to that Saturday afternoon when there could be an influx of outdoor enthusiasts in the field and taking that time, just maybe think about it a little bit differently. If you can take that time or rearrange your schedules. I know children are in school and there's those challenges to work around. But if it's a priority for you, you'll make the time and you'll figure out different ways to have a quality experience in the outdoors. And I think that is something that we will always be trying to define and to make better, is that quality experience. But for me, it's different than it is for Tanaya. She's going to define that experience much different. Late season hunting opportunities, especially when it comes to pheasant hunting, are awesome. And not everybody likes to trudge through the snow and the cold and the wind, smacking you in the face. But for others, that's a prime opportunity when there's less people out there. So it's just really, thinking about it a little bit differently of when and how and where, and making sure that you have the people with you that will help guide you there too, and thinking about that differently.
So we talked about introducing women to the sport. What about kids? Because they're the next generation that's going to be carrying on this tradition. What are some things that you offer to help encourage kids to get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. We start smiling because we're both mothers and just love the kids. Yeah, go for it.
So it has to be within the framework of a whole family.
Yeah.
You can't do youth one and done outreach and expect that it's going to be sustainable. And so we both of us in our organizations really focus on reaching whole families and adults who are not necessarily parents or belong to a family, right? But there's different approaches there. But with kids in South Dakota, something really special happened within the last year. Savannah Hendricks, who was 13 at the time, brought a petition before the commission to specifically lengthen the youth hunting season, and won. Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely incredible young person. Also check out her episode on Into the Outdoors. #fantastic. These simple initiatives like making sure there's opportunities specifically for youth who are learning their skill sets to be out in the field with their families is a great opportunity within states. And I think taking advantage of that as well. It's an underutilized season and has been, I think, for a long time. So take the chance to get out there with your family. And if you don't know how to hunt or your family doesn't know how to hunt, it's such an amazing way to gain adventure in your family and to learn together.
And I could share a quick story about dove hunting, because I would say probably in the last 6 years or so, my husband and I, and then our kids now, of course, too, have really gotten into dove hunting, which opens up here in South Dakota September 1st. And, they're starting to move on and get to warmer places now. But typically through the end of October, you can still have some success dove hunting. But for us, I mean, it's a walk out of our house and we're set down and we turn those mojos on and we're hunting within 5 to 10 minutes. It can be a little warm in September, but, we go as a family. And my little guy, who was 4 when he really started doing this with me, I mean, he was then asking me on our drive home, we have a 30-minute drive home from town. And he's like, Mom, you want to go duck hunting tonight? I'm like, yeah, buddy, sure I do, and so when they start to ask you to go do those things, I mean, they know what the passion and how much fun it can be. And these are little spurts. This isn't like, you're going out for the entire evening. I mean, yeah, my husband would like to stay till sundown, but, we've got supper and bath time and, storybooks before, the next day begins. And so we're just out for, it could be an hour, it could be an hour and a half, or it could be 20 minutes, depending on the day. It's not, with kids, that's the one thing that we all have to keep in mind is that we can't burn them out. Because I've done that with my daughter when we were out hunting for a full day. And I regret that. She does not like turkey hunting at all. Because it was a full day and it was hard and it was long. But from deer hunting to pheasant hunting to dove hunting, she'll do that any time. But so I've lived through the right ways and the wrong ways that have worked for my family. So I would just champion that for other moms and parents out there, is to just be cognizant of the time that you spend. Because what you might have in mind, the kids might not have in mind either. So
I could add to that. Yeah. So in South Dakota, there's a really excellent opportunity, and in many states, there's a really great opportunity to take Hunt Safe into schools. And so if you can enroll your kid in a hunter education course where they can gain that confidence in firearm handling, safety, that's huge. Just that exposure, because regardless of whether you're going hunting as a family or whether your family may be exposed to firearms in a friend's home, that piece of knowledge is critical to make sure that people handle firearms. That's a great first step for anybody getting interested in hunting. And then there are other activities that youth can engage in that are growing rapidly across the country. One of those is USA Play Targets. Another one is the Scholastic Sporting Clays League, NAS, National Archery in the Schools program. Those are all school programs that your youth can engage in to, again, increase their familiarity with hunting and shooting sports and your family's familiarity with those activities so you can engage in them together.
As well as local 4-H clubs, right? They have shooting sports as well, and I know my daughter's done that. And so we're at the Game Fishing Parks, we're working to partner with them a little bit more too, through South Dakota State University Extension offices and 4-H, to make sure that those partnerships stay strong and that we're continuing to hold strong for our youth and giving them fields through those sorts of programs too.
That's great. Well, we touched on youth. Before we wrap it up, I also want to touch on a lot of other people's favorite subject, and that's bird dogs. I watched a show the other day just kind of thinking about pheasant hunting, and it was a show called The Flush, which you may be familiar with. The host was from Minnesota, but he was going to South Dakota to do a hunt with his new pup, and it was his first hunt. And then they were going to be spreading the ashes of their late bird dog that had passed away at the last hunting site. I had to turn it off at that point because I was just going to start bawling. But you mentioned, Emily, that you went out with your dog on your first hunt this year. I think it was this season, right? Talk a little bit about like the bond between hunters and their bird dogs. And
yeah, it's super special. And some hunters are just out in the field to watch their dogs work, right? And I know my husband is he's on the cusp of that too. But we had our bird dog, our old bird dog, pass away in April. And so we got a puppy over Memorial Day weekend. Went over to Lake Preston, picked her up. Her name is Timber. She's a black lab, and she's beautiful, and she's amazing. And it's just become this lovable piece of our family. So my husband, Chad, took her out on the resident opener, and she got her first bird. And so they came home and told me the story. We were doing a home improvement project, so I actually wasn't out that day with them. But she got her first bird, and it's like, there's no other feeling than, you're just this proud parent of this little puppy. When she retrieves and brings that bird back to you. I got to watch her in the field opening weekend, and she's only 7 months old. And there were a few other older dogs that she was able to learn and watch from. But she stayed close to Chad. She ranged really well. She's flushed. I mean, I've watched her, even this summer, just go on point with some of the little birdies, we call them songbirds or whatever in the yard and in the cedar trees, where she'll just go on point and then chase after them. So it's just, watching the dogs work is really exciting. Making sure they're treated well and that they stay safe in the field is just as important as the hunters and those around you. We always say make sure you see the blue sky, because those dogs are right there in front of us working too, and doing just as great a job of hunting as the rest of the group, making sure they have water, that you're checking their paws for, in central South Dakota, it could be from the cockleburs to the cactuses to, you name it, making sure that they're just staying well, and that I mentioned hydrating, and that our dog won't eat while she's working or anything like that. So we wait until the end to do that. You kind of have to gauge how much you've worked them, because they will continue to work hard for you. So kind of going back to what I talked about when you're taking youth out in the field, it's no different than making sure you're taking care of your dog and how hard that dog might be working, and gauging that, making sure they're staying healthy and stuff too. But yeah, this pup has been a lot of fun to watch, and we're going back out again this weekend. And she didn't know what to think about the doves earlier. Their feathers are a little bit different, a little bit delicate. But yeah. Anyways, I could go on for this story. You probably have a better one than
No. I don't have my own. So I went straight from house plants to pets that look like me, my two daughters. No pets in my household. But I do love watching dogs work, and that is something that is absolutely special. And I have friends who train dogs and just do an amazing job, and that's been really cool. But what I wanted to showcase is dogs are true adventure buddies.
Yeah.
Big time adventure buddies. And my friend Brian Koch right now is going down the Missouri River in a kayak with his upland game dog, so his bird dog. And in a kayak with him, and he is upland game hunting his entire way down the Missouri River in South Dakota right now.
Oh, wow.
He's amazing. UltimateUpland.com. Check him out. But on top of that, last year, he fat biked his way across South Dakota and upland game hunted the whole way, pulling his two dogs and a trailer behind his bicycle and camping his way across South Dakota. So speaking of woman angler and adventure, of course, he's not a woman, but these dogs are true adventure buddies, and they, I think, love the adventure just as much as we do, and the companionship. And so I love seeing that relationship, and I look forward to our family being able to engage in that too.
That is super hardcore. I mean,
he's a whole other bag of
that is hardcore, because we took Timber on some hikes in the hills this summer just because, she's such a young pup that we couldn't leave her home, and we just brought her with us. I mean, and when you engage the dog in those adventures, I think they are just a much different dog.
Totally.
Right? Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah. So good times.
That's cool. Well, I want to say I think you guys are doing an amazing job. I watched some of the videos on the website, and there were women involved, and you don't see that all the time. And so that's important to get that imaging out there again, to, help encourage more women to get involved and see somebody else doing it and think I can do it too. I'm going to share a lot of these resources that we talked about in the show notes for this episode, so people interested can click on those and check it out. So as we part, if each of you could just share maybe a little bit of advice on how we can best be mentors to other women out there wanting to get involved.
Yeah, as we both kind of think, I'll just jump in real quick. My whole piece of the mentorship and encouraging other women to get involved in outdoor recreation is, don't rush it. Take some time to think through what you want to start with. I mean, do some research, but don't hesitate to, like tonight said, call our department. We can help line you up with some of these mentorship programs and other educational programming that could be really beneficial to you in your research and finding what is going to fit you and what you're going to like. And you can try stuff and not like it. It's okay. And then you can try some new stuff, and we'll help you through that. So just what I would say is don't be intimidated either. Everybody has to start somewhere, and we're willing to help and set aside any, preconceived, expectations of what you should be and where. We're going to meet you where you are in your outdoor journey. So.
Yeah, I think along those exact same lines, it's you belong in this space. This is your space. And I think just taking ownership of that and taking up space, I think is a really important piece of all of this. And so don't be shy about offering a hand if you're an experienced hunter, or even if you don't feel like you're that experienced, you know more than the next person. And it's so much easier to learn from somebody that's one step ahead of you than it is to learn from someone who's 7 steps ahead of you. So know that you have something to offer, and don't be shy about reaching out and offering that. I think we all get farther together. So don't be shy.
Absolutely. That's great advice. Thank you, ladies, for taking some time out of your day to do this podcast. I'm excited to get it out for everybody to see, and hopefully we've encouraged some people to go up to South Dakota or residents in South Dakota that maybe haven't tried it yet and get out there and experience some of this world-class pheasant hunting and other opportunities up there, fishing, camping, all the other things that South Dakota has to offer. All right, thanks for listening, everyone. Be sure and check out the show notes for this episode to access some of the great resources we mentioned during this conversation, including huntthegreatest.com. And you can get to the show notes by going to thewomanangler.com/208 or right there in your favorite podcast app. If you do go to the website, I also shared a couple videos. One is that amazing video of the young Savannah Hendricks, the 13-year-old girl who got the law change from Bayou Wild TV. So definitely check that out. If this doesn't have you psyched to go check out pheasant hunting in South Dakota, I don't know what will. Even if you're not into shooting, there are other roles on the team that are just as important. Thanks to my buddy John King for mentioning that on a post in the Woman Angler and Adventurer Facebook group recently. He said there are active roles, walkers, and passive roles, blockers on big hunts. So check it out. There's something for everyone. Go get out there and be adventurous, and see y'all next week.